Hey guys, Midway Piper here with you. I hope all is going well. Today is the 10th day of Paladin's Codger Challenge for 2025. Things are still going well, although I am getting a bit of an urge for something else. I'm not going to do it. But this is sort of the first day that that urge to try to have something different was there. But here we are, half-breed mixture in Burt. Now, the point of today's video, and probably what I'll title it, is I want to discuss two things. One of which has been hitting all the headlines, and the other isn't being talked about so much. So, first one, we'll talk about the one that's not really being talked about so much. Oh, maybe it is. First thing I want to discuss is the tariffs. And tariffs are being talked about plenty. But I understand the point to the tariffs. I understand what Trump is trying to do with that. And I'm not completely opposed to it. I do certainly think that a lot of other countries are taking advantage of us being buyers of everything, and some of those countries have certainly come to the table to rediscuss, which is great. I find it interesting, for as much money as we give Israel, the tariff that they had on imported U.S. goods is kind of crazy. I'm almost offended by that, but whatever. What I am questioning, though, is these tariff discussions keep going up, and then they go, we're implementing tariffs, then we're not implementing tariffs, and then if you guys follow the stock market at all, first of all, it's way too emotional for anyone's good. But I am curious, and I would almost borderline have to call, I'm tempted to call it stock manipulation. This tariff going on, tariff off, tariff on, tariff off. I don't know if you guys followed what happened yesterday with the stock market after Trump announced, seemingly out of nowhere, that he was pausing the tariffs. It popped a lot. And it's gone down a little bit today, but it's still a lot higher than it was yesterday afternoon, early in the day. Tesla stock, for example, popped 50 points yesterday. 50. Now I bought, as the stock has been down, I've bought a couple of shares of Tesla. In my portfolio, my Tesla shares went from, I had lost 13%, and by the end of the day, I was up 7%. That's crazy. Down 13 to up 7. What I'm really curious about is who knows about these decisions before they're being made. And how much money did they make yesterday off of those decisions? Because if you bought yesterday morning, you made a lot of money by the end of the day yesterday. And then if you sold again this morning, you made quite a bit of money yesterday, especially if you dumped a good amount of money into the market. If you've been sitting on that in cash and you're like, ooh, now's a good chance. You made a lot of money off of that yesterday. And I certainly don't want to ever agree with Elizabeth Warren on just about anything, but it is something that she had brought up. And I saw the article on it this morning. I was thinking about this yesterday. I didn't have a chance to smoke a pipe or record a video yesterday, so I didn't talk about it then, but thought crossed my mind. If you want to see my text threads with a friend about it around 2:30 in the afternoon, I was like, this is getting shady. So, and you can't tell me that the people that are making these decisions don't know that the stock market was going to jump. Maybe not to the degree that it did, but some people are making some good money off of this roller coaster ride. Let's just say that. And I'm curious to see who's all doing it. So that's number one. Number two, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen some of these articles by this point in time. All this talk of colossal biotech bringing back the dire wolves from extinction. It's a load of crap. It's a load of crap. And you know what? I have enjoyed watching every major mass media supposed news agency and all their little subsidiaries. I've enjoyed watching over the last couple days all of these headlines coming out about how Colossal has recreated the dire wolf. Because that's bullshit. That's a sensationalist narrative, and they're playing it up for views, reads, whatever. Colossal did not create a dire wolf. They did not bring a dire wolf back from extinction. All they did was genetically modify a couple of wolves to exhibit what they perceived to be dire wolf traits. What do I mean by that? As far as I'm aware, they didn't even put any dire wolf genes in the gray wolves that they modified. They compared the gray wolf genome to the genome of a dire wolf, and they edited, I think it was like 20 genes from the gray wolf to have dire wolf-like traits. So if you saw any of these articles, one of the most glaring changes would be the fur color, right? You've got white fur as puppies. Nope. That's not true. Wolves don't have don't have pups with white fur. Nope. Even Arctic wolves have dark fur as puppies when they're first born. It's not white. So all they did is make 20 gene edits to some gray wolves. And they're calling them dire wolves because it's supposed to look more like a dire wolf. It's a very big difference. It's a very big difference from saying that we genetically modified a wolf to, hey, we edited a gray wolf. very different conversations. So they did not bring something back. They did not recreate an extinct animal. That's not how that worked out. Why did they do the direwolf? Sensationalism. That's why. If you look at it, they even brought on George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame to do a whole bunch of their publicity for them. It's a money-making game for this company. And I'm interested how much deeper it goes because, first of all, this was a company created essentially by a tech bro in 2021, so peak of COVID. They created this bioengineering lab. In the end of last year, they modified some gray wolf genes. They transplanted that into a dog who carried those pups to term and birthed them. Now, what else is wrong with them? Well, they're still really young, so there's a lot we don't know. But look when they were born. I think two of them, the two boys, named Romulus and Remus. How creative. Not really. They were born, I think it was in October. And the sister, the female, not a sister, I don't believe, female, born to another different dog, was born, I believe, in December. Wolves are born in April and May. There is no wolf. Breeding season hasn't even started for wolves in October or December, really. So there's that. So they're even born at the wrong time of year. Again, partly because they transplanted them into dogs. So that's one thing that's going on with Colossal. By the way, the female was named Khaleesi as a nod to George R.R. Martin and his Game of Thrones. It was funny though, because I went and checked out George R.R. Martin's social media feed. And the day before Colossal made this announcement, he said, "I've got some big news coming tomorrow. Stay tuned to see what's going to happen." And those of you that are not really involved in the book world, especially the fantasy world, if you just watched Game of Thrones, the show, and liked it, great for you. But if you did not know this, one of the biggest letdowns for people that watched the show was they thought the ending was bad. And part of the reason for that is because George R.R. Martin never wrote the ending of Game of Thrones. And people have been expecting this last book for a very long time. Many, 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 many years. By the time the show even started, people were like, "Oh man, he's got to finish the book now, because how else are they going to finish the TV show?" He never did. Still hasn't. Probably never will. And so when he made that announcement, all of his fans were like, "Oh my God, he's finally announcing the last book, yay!" And then he announced, when he posted the announcement from Colossal about the direwolf pups, his fan base tore him a new one. They were pissed. They're like, "Wow, you did not write the last book. Fantastic. I don't care about this." So that was funny. But there's some other issues, shall we say, with the work that Colossal's doing. One of the supposed big focuses of their work, no idea what's going on back there. Anyways, one of the big talks of one of their big talking points about the benefits of this cloning, as they call it, is that it'll be great and helpful for conservation purposes. And as a show of how good they are, they cloned some animals that they're calling red wolves, which are critically endangered. There's only 16 in the wild. And they're like, oh, look, we cloned some red wolves. I'm not going to get into a lot of the side details about this for a couple of reasons, but nonetheless, the samples that they cloned, they got from questionable means, and they're not actually red wolves. There's some questionable science going on in the background there. We'll leave it at that. They're not red wolves. They're not. And now, come to find out that the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, who is a Republican presidential candidate, previously governor of North Dakota, again, Secretary of the Interior now, has been in discussions with Colossal, and he's using the work that they're doing as a way of saying, well, this brings a whole new, different game to conservation, because at any point in time we can bring back any creature we want. So is it really that important that we preserve these things? Do we need to really conserve all these animals right now? Because we can just print some anytime we want. And that to me is getting dangerous. It's a way of dismantling a lot of the work that the Endangered Species Act has done and is doing. And I don't like it. Now, one of the implications that I see of this entire thing, and this is also the company that a couple of months ago, and it went under the radar for a lot of people, they produced the woolly mice with long hair that they say was spliced with mammoth genes to give them that woolly fur. No. Anyways, there's been talk with them about, let's create some woolly mammoths and bring some of them back too. Now, some of you might be thinking, didn't we already see a movie about this? Or if you're smart, you read the book, Jurassic Park. Better than the movie. Sorry, it's book snob in me. Michael Crichton knew a lot about science. He was a very, very smart individual. And a lot of, I think the point of Jurassic Park was a warning about this kind of thing. But also, this also sets up a dangerous precedent for creating genetically modified organisms GMOs. In the animal world, you can't patent an animal right now. But when you create something in a lab, technically, I guess that would make it patentable. So where do I see that going down the road? Well, with the animal aspect of it, it'll reach the point where you can contact Colossal and say, hey, I want X. And if you pay enough money, they'll make you an X. If you're a zoo and you say, wow, if we created a mammoth park, that would attract visitors. You could contact Colossal and order you a mammoth delivered to your zoo. You want to bring back some other extinct animal? Contact Colossal. They can make one for you, and it'll draw a whole bunch of attention to your facility. It's a giant money-making scheme. Surprise, surprise, surprise. No one else can do it because Colossal will own the technology to do it. I want to know where their big monies come from. There's a big person involved behind it. I have some suspicions. I'm not going to say anything because it's all going to be conspiracy theory, but I have some ideas, some thoughts. Now, again, like I said, why do they choose the direwolf? Because it's sensationalist, and they are smart enough to bring on George R.R. Martin and play off the Game of Thrones fame and all that kind of stuff. And, they're going to have a lot of people super excited about this. So I started doing a little bit of research on the CEO of Colossal. He did an interview with Joe Rogan recently, and you can find stuff on him. Interviews that he's done in the past. And he's pretty much straight up said this is a money-making venture. But, as this things start to catch on and people start to question what they're doing a little bit more, I've read some stuff by some of the people that they've recruited. A lot of those names are kept under wraps. A lot of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, have been signed. But one of the people that they have recruited is a scientist named George Church. And he's been involved in genetic research for a long time. And you can find TED Talks that he's done going back 15 plus years about bringing back the mammoth. He's not new to this game. He's been around talking about this stuff way before Colossal existed. And if you watch the twist that he's put on it of recent years, it's turned more towards the human engineering, bioengineering discussion. Specifically, what would happen if we could bioengineer humans to be resistant to sickness, bacteria, viruses, all that kind of stuff. Isn't it only ethical if we could create that, the possibility of making humans immune to viruses and such? Isn't it in our best interest to do that? And so you go down the ethics of how could you say no? How could you say you don't want that? Don't you want grandma to live forever? A lot of these arguments were being made during COVID. While simultaneously we're in labs, we're bringing back old and dead disease viruses and bacteria just to see what happens. Oh, well, we're going to bring this one back because that way, if it were to come back on its own, we'll know what to do with it. It gets very, very fishy. We could create chickens that lay multiple eggs a day, and that'll really bring down the price on eggs. It's a slippery slope. Are there some benefits that can come from this? Maybe. But this is sort of their first big public statement. The woolly mouse was not as big. But interestingly enough, though, like I mentioned earlier in the video, and we'll sort of wrap it all up with this one. Like I mentioned before, it's interesting to see how the mass media has pumped out these articles. All the usual suspects: ABC, NBC, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. All of them have wasted no time pumping out articles about how the direwolf has come back. Very little research done. It was pretty much a paid-for publicity piece, reiterated by all the media, mass media. And luckily now, there's a lot of people who are much better versed than anyone at those agencies who are pointing out all the problems. But if you wondered how false information gets disseminated so easily, well, now you've got all your usual parties who have been accused for so long. And here's a great example. You can see how they've all just fallen in line because they all want to be the ones to report on it and reporting misinformation. So there's been a couple of interesting days in the news. And things are not as cut and dry as they may seem. There's a lot of manipulation happening on both sides. But not to put too fine of a point on it. My last video, we talked a little bit about Dr. Alan Harrelson and Pipe Cottage and whatnot, and he's been getting slammed lately for a lot of his disenchantment with MAGA. And I can't help but agree. Probably for some different reasons than he might have. But who knows? All I can tell you is yesterday was a great example of the rich getting richer. Those not so well versed in the stock market have already sold off. They had already sold out. If they were going to do it, they already did it. A lot of people sold off at a low point when these tariffs were announced that they were going on, that Trump was going to initiate them. I think that was the tipping point for a lot of people who pulled out of the market and lost a lot of money. And those who knew probably stayed in. Now, I've stayed in because I've sort of gamified it for myself. If I see the market up, I'm like, cool. If I see the market down, I'm like, good thing I don't need the money right now. I'm not pulling the money out. That's not my goal for my investment portfolio. So I'm not saying this because I lost a bunch of money. But it is interesting to see how some of these sways in the market that have been occurring. And I just kind of wonder, who knows who's got insider knowledge. So anyways, that's pretty much all I really wanted to talk about today. Gotta finish up, get ready, go work my second job, and then my weekend starts. So tomorrow will be a Friday Reads video. Got some good reading done this week, so we'll talk about that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you all have a good one. Turn on your critical thinking hats, because things are not as simple as they may seem, I'm afraid to say. And I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.